Hello everyone, and today I would like to show you another marvelous chess game by Paul Morphy. And Paul Morphy usually known as a very strong attacking player, but in this chess game you will see the perfect skills of Paul Morphy. When it comes to endgame, he played a beautiful endgame in this chess game, and his opponent is Thomas Wilson Barnes, one of his strong rivals from 1858, London. And Paul Morphy is playing with the black pieces. So Wilson Barnes starts the game with playing e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. Spanish opening, knight to f6 by Paul Morphy, d4, e takes on d4, e5, knight to e4. And after this move, Thomas Wilson Barnes castled. Paul Morphy played a6, attacking the bishop, bishop to a4, knight to c5, bishop takes knight, d takes on c6, knight takes on d4, bishop to e7, preparing to castle, knight to c3, and Paul Morphy castled, bishop to e3, f6, e takes on f6, rook takes on f6, queen to e2, rook to g6, lining the rook with the king, king to h1, running away from the rook, bishop to d6, rook from a to d1, and now queen to h4 by Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy is threatening checkmate with the queen, while defending f4, blocking the bishop, bishop to g4, attacking the queen, knight to f3, queen to h5, saving the queen, bishop takes on c5, bishop takes bishop, knight to e4, bishop to b6, saving the bishop, knight from e to g5, h6, attacking the knight. And Thomas Wilson Barnes played queen to c4, that's check. Well, of course, Paul Morphy can't play king to f8, because then queen to f7, and that's checkmate. That's why the only safe spot is king to h8 for Paul Morphy. Paul Morphy played king to h8, but then knight to f7, that's check. Of course, Paul Morphy can't play king to g8, so Paul Morphy played king to h7, the only safe spot for the king. But now here comes knight from 7 to e5 by Thomas Wilson Barnes, attacking the rook, rook to f6, defending the rook, knight takes on g4, queen takes on g4, knight to e5 by Thomas Wilson Barnes. It looks like these moves are so annoying for black. Well, Paul Morphy played queen to e6, queen to e4, check, queen to f5. Paul Morphy is insisting on exchanging the queens, and he wants to go for the endgame. So simplifying the game, Wilson Barnes is accepting the offer. Rook takes on f5 and g4, attacking the rook, rook to f6, f5, rook to e8 by Paul Morphy, attacking the knight. Well, Wilson Barnes played knight to g6, a very good spot for the knight, as you can see. And in this position, of course, a talented and a genius level player like Paul Morphy probably did not miss the threat that white has in this position, but he played rook to e2, allowing rook to d8, and Wilson Barnes happily played rook to d8 and threatening checkmate. Well, Paul Morphy has a better plan in this position, and he played rook takes knight, believe it or not, losing the exchange. If rook takes on c2, rook to h8, that's checkmate. So after rook to d8, rook takes knight, f takes on g6, king takes on g6, rook to d7. Well, after rook to d7, Thomas Wilson Barnes is preparing to play rook to f7, doubling the rooks and attacking the king without having no mercy. Well, Paul Morphy calmly captures the pawn on c2, but now rook from f to f7 and attacking the pawn with the two rooks. Paul Morphy is defending the pawn with the bishop. Rook takes on c7. Of course, if rook takes on d4, king takes on f7. Rook takes on c7, but rook takes on b2, and then rook takes on b7. But Paul Morphy captures another pawn. Rook takes on a2, h4, a5 by Paul Morphy, and here comes h5 by Wilson Barnes. Let's check king to g5. And in this position, Wilson Barnes thought very deeply and very hard. And then he realized that this is all over for white, believe it or not, even though white has the exchange. So that's why he sacrificed the exchange. Rook takes on g7. And here comes an epic move by Paul Morphy. He didn't capture the rook with the bishop. He played king to h4, threatening to play king to g3, and then checkmating the king. That's the plan of Paul Morphy. What a beautiful plan. That's why Paul Morphy went for the endgame and sacrificed the exchange. You see how Paul Morphy can get deep. What a deep, accurate chess player this Paul Morphy was. Well, we have rook from g to e7, a desperate move. a4 by Paul Morphy, and Wilson Barnes resigned. Unbelievable. And why Wilson Barnes resigned? As I told you, there is king to g3 threat. Probably in the early stage of the game, Wilson Barnes has this grin in his face. But now, after this position, probably he was not looking happy. And the grin in his face gone after this position. But he resigned because he is getting checkmated and there is no defense. There is forced checkmate from 5 to 8 moves. So let me show you some of them. If rook from b to c7, let's say, then king to g3, there is no defense. Rook takes on c6, rook to h2, checkmate. If let's say rook to e1, then king to h3, rook to b2. Rook takes rook, rook to b2 is the only defense. Rook to e3, bishop takes rook, g5, rook to h2, checkmate. Unbelievable. Let's say rook to b3, a takes on b3. Well, this is all over for white, as you can see. And white is getting checkmated, whatever he does. You can see how Paul Morphy thinks very deeply. And then he plays his famous, accurate moves. Well, that's why after Paul Morphy calmly played a4, Thomas Wilson Barnes was no longer smiling. And that's all over for white. Another very beautiful and a magnificent chess game by Paul Morphy. Not a well-known chess game by Paul Morphy, but it should be a well-known chess game. So I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care and bye-bye.